The venue for the third round of this European Le Mans Series Championship is the Le Castellet circuit in the south of France. Circuit Paul Ricard, a venue that the championship knows very well in recent years, particularly in 2020 when there was an unexpected second visit to this part of the world. But it's a glorious place to go racing. Weather could not be more perfect, frankly. 25 degrees Celsius in the air, 32 degrees Celsius down at track level. That's going to be less of an issue when they're gunning for single lap pace in the next 3 doses of 10-minute sessions, but more of a difficulty during the 4 hours tomorrow, you would suspect. So where this sits in the season, we've opened our campaign in Barcelona in the middle portion of April. Then 4 weeks later, we went to the Red Bull Ring in Austria for the 4 hours there in the Styrian Mountains. And now just 3 weeks after that, the 4 hours of Le Castellet, and this adjusted race meeting after Le Mans was moved to August. Still to come, Monza, Spa-Francorchamps and Portimao. And this place, 5.7 kilometres in length. Really contrasting styles to this relatively long lap with a tricky start to it. Very, very technical through turns 3, 4 and 5. Then onto the long straight of the Mistral and that incredibly challenging right-hander at Senior Corner. The double right at Beausset and Virage du Lac, Virage du Pont, turns 13 and 14 to end the lap. So, qualifying to look forward to. Delighted you can join us for the next best part of an hour for qualifying for GTE, LMP3s and LMP2s. My name's Johnny Palmer. I'm joined to my right by Graham Goodwin. We've been with you every step of the way so far. Unbelievable to think, Graham, that at the end of this weekend we will be at half distance in the ELMS.
Yeah, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody around the world listening and watching in to this one. Yeah, halfway. What will be 24 hours of race action, of course, in this 6-race series, with a goodly number of these teams, of course, taking that break little after midway in the season for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, that delayed August race. The track and the teams, the grid looking splendid again. Once again, they've rolled out the full pallets, haven't they, for the European Le Mans Series. Here's the number 83 car, the Iron Dames. What lies ahead for this trio? There's been a lot of fan interest looking at the times coming through from the free practice sessions and testing, to suggest that maybe there might be a good result here. They've gone well before, finished second on their debut as the Iron Dames 2 seasons ago. This, though, is the championship leading car. This is the 88 car from AF Corsa. Francois Perrodo, joined by Manu Collard and the very pacey Alessio Rivera.
Yeah, not quite the championship leader, because Miguel Molina, Rino Mastronardi, Matteo Cressoni have had a good couple of races, and we didn't see the Perrodo Collard Rivera
apologies,
car.
I'm mixing up my WEC, aren't I?
It's all right.
Winning everywhere.
Well, that car does feature in both championships, but we didn't have them for the opening round in Barcelona, so therefore they didn't score, but they did get maximum points last time out. So they're something like third in the championship.
Something like that. It's the 55, I think, this second. There is a number 93 car. This is the second of the Proton competition cars. Michael Fassbender, the Irish-German Hollywood star, of course, joined by Richard Leitz, and it's Wolf Hensler this weekend, isn't it?
Yes,
because
I believe
Felipe
so.
Larza is busy at the Nürburgring.
Unsurprisingly, because Larza has competed in a number of 24-hour races at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, but is a key part to that 93 crew. Yes, Jackson Evans replaces Larza in with Fassbender and Richard Leitz.
Here's the 77 car. This, despite its WeatherTech branding, is the second Proton car. Of course, those two operations, Proton and WeatherTech, are collaborating in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Here, the lovely yellow 66 car from JMW Motorsport. I'm sure Jim McWhirter and family are watching in from home. Hi, Jim and everybody. Miss you at the races. You'll be back, I'm sure, when it's safe for everybody to do so. 77 gets the Goodyears on board. Of course, it is a single tyre class with the Goodyear Eagles on all of the GT cars. These, remember, are GTE spec cars in the European Le Mans Series.
Yeah, so unlike the cars that we saw earlier on today, you may have caught as part of the Michelin Le Mans Cup qualifying session, they are GT3 cars, therefore carry ABS, they carry some traction control as well. Strictly no anti-lock braking systems or driver aids permitted on these GTE cars, and this is the same spec of car, of course, that we see in GT Pro and GT Am in the WEC and the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So,
third race meeting of this 6-race series. And an interesting aside, by the way, with those back-to-back races next up at Monza on adjacent weekends, the LMS first, then the WEC, well over half of the active GTE cars on the planet will be in Italy across those 2 weekends.
Wow. Yeah, that is quite some collection of machinery from a variety of places, and all heading to the northern part of Italy for the assembly. Another one of those super weekends. We had a similar one really last year when Spa-Francorchamps was the venue of both an ELMS round and then the WEC the following weekend. It makes sense to me to be able to do it that way. And then conversations can be had of drivers up and coming, wanting to maybe spot an opportunity in the big show, the WEC, in forthcoming races or certainly for forthcoming seasons. Just looking back at qualifying already for this year, Christian Reed, Jean-Marie Bruni and Jackson Evans have had success so far in the number 77 car, and at Red Bull Ring it was a pole position for the 88, as I've mentioned, Francois Perrodo, Manu Collard and Alessia Rivera, who ended up taking maximum points at Austria 3 weeks ago. Michael Fassbender, with the black COVID-19 mask on then, is taking a watching brief for this event. Just 10 minutes that you get around a pretty long circuit. This is one of the longest tracks we go to all year. Not as long as the 7 kilometres that they will encounter at Spa, of course, but historically we've had a couple of extra minutes bolted on for the sessions in Belgium. Not the case here at Ricard.
Astonishing scenes, of course, yesterday. Many of you have seen online at Spa, but happily lots of a gap between now and then. Complete contrast here with beautiful sunny weather in the south of France compared to the, well, torrential rain and flash flooding that's damaged the track and the tunnels, I gather, at Spa-Francorchamps. 93 car, remember, the Porsches this year for Proton are to the new factory spec. This is the RSR 911 RSR 19. And an even further step forward, as you'll see from the rear of the car, the exhaust to the rear, not to the side as they were last year in GT Pro. It's all linked in with noise. It does look to be on it here, and we've seen in free practice so far, Johnny, the Porsches at the sharp end, FP2 headed by Jimmy Bruni in the 77 car. Richard Leitz, I believe, was third in that session.
Yeah, and Leitz always carrying good speed, so in his home race last time out, but no stranger to the contours of Circuit Paul Ricard and that emerald green Porsche reaching the end of the Mistral straight now, heading into the full commitment turn 10 at Senior, and then trying to get the car, that's the speed arrested on this car in time for Beausset, choosing to go very wide on the middle portion of that double right-hander to clip both apices near perfectly. And behind him is Ross Gunn in the 95 numbered TF Sport Aston Martin. Great to have an Aston as regular part of the championship once again.
And Ross right at the sharp end as well in both free practice sessions. Topped one of them and second in the second in this beautiful number 95 car from TF Sport. Share that with Ollie Hancock and John Hartshorn, of course. And coming through now, the end of their establishing laps. On to the quick laps now.
So the 152.471 will put briefly Ricard Leitz into second position, but Ross Gunn goes a touch faster. So the 77 Porsche is currently quickest from the Aston Martin of Ross Gunn, as mentioned. 77 Porsche heading on to another lap and being qualified by Jean-Marie Bruni, as mentioned, with the WeatherTech branding. And although we missed him for the opening round, Cooper McNeil very much part of that squad. And now that he is, the WeatherTech branding makes sense. I know that that left one or two of us with a bit of scratching of the head as to exactly why it had been turned out in those colours, although there was always a tie-in with Proton and the Le Mans drive. But 152.299 is the fastest effort so far from Jean-Marie Bruni, and only 0.005 of a second slower is Ross Gunn in the 95 Aston Martin. Incredibly tight on the times. In fact, so much so that the 93 car looks to be well away from those times set initially of Ricard Leeds. To be just less than 0.2 of a second is normally right in the ballpark, but when you've got a gap which is only 0.005 of a second between the top two cars, there's work for Ricard Leeds to do.
There most certainly is. 4 factory drivers top the times at the moment. Bruni from Gunn, from Leeds, from Molina, then Alessio Rivera, young Italian, who's showing brilliant form this season wherever he puts his feet on the pedals for a Ferrari. His 5th quickest, Rahul Frey, 6th, then Matt Griffin, Jody Fannin and Paolo Roberti. They're your 9. Porsche from Aston Martin from Porsche, then the trainer Ferraris. Gaps are tiny. To the front of the field, though, goes Richard Leeds.
Yeah, mightily impressive time from the Austrian. It's a 151.944 for Ricard Leeds in the 93 car. Jean-Marie Bruni still circulating, as is Ross Gunn. We've reached the point, though, actually, where a lot of them have decided to pit with just under 4 minutes to go. So there is the opportunity to switch tyres and push on again for another quick one if they so choose, because the Goodyear Eagle tyres are not limited. So you can throw as many tyres at these cars as you wish, but really there's about a sort of 2-chance portion of this qualifying session to do so. That's the reason why the 77 crew are wasting no time at all. So one of 3 cars that remain out on track. The 93 Porsche, 151.944, ahead of the sister Proton Competition Porsche, number 77. 3.5 tenths separate the two, as pretty much everyone that failed into the pit lane a moment or two ago, Graham, is back out on track again.
Absolutely, we'll be having one last crack at this. 3 minutes left on the clock. Here comes Ricard Leeds. He's not really got time to go in and come back out again. Is he going to improve on this lap? It's 151.944, the only driver so far under 152 in this session. Now, he'll have display on his dash that will tell him whether or not the delta here is up or down. Is this push on or bust? And what have the rest got left in the locker here, Johnny Palmer?
Yeah.
He's pushing, he's definitely pushing here, so I think he thinks he's up here.
Well, it's a 29.8 through the middle sector, which is certainly not hanging around, but he is going to come into the pits, having just given him the big build-up. It'll be a change of tyres, I fancy. And
I don't think he's got time.
No, you're probably right, actually.
I think that's him done.
So he may well jump the red light at the end of the pit lane, but by the time he comes around after the flyer, that will be checkered flag. Yeah. Because these cars take 1 minute and 50-odd seconds to get around. We're almost at that point left in the session. So at the moment, he is leaning on 0.355 of a second, but everybody else is back out into the session on brand new stickered Goodyear Eagle tyres. So set to change very much the order in the latter stages.
So who's got this right strategy? Doesn't have the look of a very happy man there.
Yeah,
I have a
not.
feeling he was potentially looking for another lap on those tyres, but was down on his delta.
Yeah.
Here comes the number 80 car, though. Miguel Molina has lost a flying lap. He's, at the moment, almost 9/10 of a second down here, and this will be his last shot at improving that. The Ferrari factory driver.
So the 80 car as the championship leader, and Miguel Molina along with his crew, but Molina specifically so happy to win at his home circuit. He is born and bred in Barcelona, and to be able to race there in the opening event with Iron Lynx and take victory meant an awful lot to him, you could tell. Rino Mastronardi and Matteo Cressoni enjoying their time on the top step of the podium as well. And they are in 4th, but only 0.8 of a second behind the Ricard Leeds effort in car number 93. And remember, car 93 cannot offer any sort of a response. And in that very tough decision of just peering up at the screens from the Proton Competition garage, hoping that he's done enough.
Well, if it's going to come, it's going to have to be coming in the latter part of this lap from either the 3rd or 4th place cars. At the moment, Ross Gunn is closing in on that tally. He's, I think, quicker at the moment than Miguel Molina. Now, it's really a matter of, does the big front-engined Aston Martin have the advantage in the technical parts of this circuit at the end of the lap against the Ferrari.
Another lap deleted, that for the 80 car.
That's it.
There you go.
Or is that his out lap? That I think might be his out lap.
Okay, lap 3 with 4 completed. It might have been an in-lap maybe that was deleted. But anyway, it could have been something that was set to be good and he bailed out of it.
Here comes Ross Gunn. What's he got left to play?
Only needs to find 5,000ths of a second to go to second.
Gun to the top.
Ross Gunn goes to the fastest time, and 5,000ths of a second I was talking about, that was to get him into second. Well, he's gone even faster than Ricard Leitz. Ross Gunn for TF Sport now has a cushion of 0.120 of a second over the 2 Porsches from Proton.
Matt Griffin goes to 4th and loses that lap. Ricard Leitz, Jimmy Bruni for Proton 2nd and 3rd, and I think they're all across the line. Miguel Molina does no better than 4th. Rahel Fry improved right at the end and leapfrogged Alessia Rivera to put the Iron Dames on row 3.
But you're right, everybody was on their final lap that time around, and that was the time to do it for Ross Gunn. A perfect effort in the end, and Ricard Leitz hangs on to second fastest. It was the fastest time when he came into the pits, of course, a 151.944, but the pace of everybody on the car out in the session has tailed off, and Leitz possibly knew his number was up, but that's a good recovery to still have a front row start.
I may be wrong. That looked awfully like Ricard Leitz in the garage. Oh, of course it was, because he's got at the car.
That's right.
Of course it has.
Yes, he was the one that wasn't, no longer in the session, and had that couple of minutes of just anticipation. 0.120 of a second, number 93 Proton competition falling away in the dying stages after a great lap from British driver Ross Gunn and the TF Sport outfit with their Aston Martin Vantage AMR. Then the 2 Proton competition Porsches. The best Ferrari, number 80 Iron Lynx, the championship leaders, 0.230 of a second adrift of the 77 time, which was set by Jean-Marie Bruni. Rahel Fry, 5th fastest in the 83 Iron Lynx Ferrari. And in 6th, Alessia Rivera. Winners last time out in Austria, the AF Corsa Ferrari will start from 6th.
Well, we said at the top of this session that we'd seen from free practice that the Aston Martin and the Porsches had looked strong, and so it proved. Humbling the Ferrari contingent. Top 3, no Ferraris. Aston Martin, Porsche, the order. And a field of high quality at the pro end here. And Ross Gunn will be mightily pleased with that, I'm absolutely certain.
Well, we didn't have an Aston Martin as a regular entry in last year's championship, but brilliant to have TF Sport signing up for the full season, and having had 2 Ferraris, I think, on pole position previously. No, a Porsche, then a Ferrari, and now an Aston Martin. So 3 different manufacturers in the opening 3 races. It just shows you not necessarily how close they are in terms of balance of performance at each individual track, but balance of performance is meant to work well across the season to a variety of circuits. And clearly the Aston has good straight line speed to be negotiating the Mistral.
But debris being picked up there by marshals, not sure whether that's from corner markers, I suspect it is, or from one of the cars. But nothing wrong with the lines of Ross Gunn. He'll be delighted, as will Tom Ferrier and Ross's teammates, Ollie Hancock and John Hartshorn. Remember, this crew, this car, and much of that crew at the very least, will be going to the Le Mans 24 Hours as well.
So, the calm before the next storm, of which there are 3 in a row, pretty much. Yep. And this being a tight and twisty track in places, but there is plenty of room out there for each of the individual classes. But we have, rather than 9 cars to accommodate out on circuit, it'll be 16 next time up for the LMP3s, 15 in the LMP2. So both of the next sessions could be as equally as busy as each other. But whereas last year in the second visit to Paul Ricard, the weather very much wasn't on our side, although it generated a great race on the Saturday night with the rain hammering down, it looks like we are set fair, at least for the rest of today, with another Ligier European Series race to come and the 2-hour Michelin Le Mans Cup event at 4:30 this afternoon. Tomorrow's ELMS race is set for an 11 o'clock start local till 3 in the afternoon. And it would be nice to have some stability in the weather, purely because that will give the teams a nice foundation to work their strategy from. But there's always the chance of maybe a full course yellow intervention, maybe a safety car as well, which can always turn the narrative a little bit. So the GT car's being wheeled back into the garage. Let's get some reaction from the GT session with Hayley.
I'm down here with Ollie Hancock, a driver of car number 95 at TF Sport. What a stellar performance from your teammate, Ross Gunn, grabbing pole back then.
He did a phenomenal job, didn't he? It was absolutely fantastic. It's all credit down to him and the guys at TF Sport and Aston Martin Racing.
So your first pole of the season. What are your expectations going into this event here at Paul Ricard?
Well, we want to win the race, don't we? It's that simple. That's what we're here to do. We're going to have a little bit of a change of tactics for the race. I'm not going to disclose too much right now. Yeah, we're here to win the race. Good
to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, it's a target for many, but so it won't surprise us in that respect. But I'm interested by Ollie's comments there.
I could see it. You could see it. If you looked at the long shot, he's waxed his legs, so it's obviously the low drag setup there.
Yeah, okay. So that's the different approach he's talking about.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, this is the place to do it in the south of France with Ross Gunn put in for qualifying. Ollie Hancock is the silver and John Hartshorn the bronze-rated driver. They finished in 8th place in Barcelona. And they finished in 8th place at Red Bull Ring as well. But they'll be certainly wanting to get a podium out of this one. And at the very least, a top 6 to be their best result of the season. We will wait and see. They're certainly starting from the best possible position.
Well, if you enjoyed the LMP3 session a little while ago for the Le Mans Cup, you're going to enjoy this even more. There'll be slightly fewer cars, but generally quicker in the European Le Mans Series. 16 cars we're going to have in the next part of this session. Mix of Ligier, and I think it's 2 Duquesne for this race. Fabien Laverne, a standout performer a couple of years ago in the Michelin Le Mans Cup as a bronze-rated driver, no longer rated bronze.
The reason why it should be quicker than the earlier Le Mans Cup session is that there's no restriction on which driver you can use. So, although there are no platinums permitted in this type of racing, predominantly it's bronze and silvers, although Joey Alders is now a gold. He may be the only one, actually, in LMP3 that is that highly ranked. But otherwise, I mean, you can use who you want. So there is the potential to have a real slugfest here over the next 10 minutes.
ROM sports car still in the garage. That is Melte Jacobsen, another of our young stars emerging through LMP3. What a great stepping stone this formula has proved to be in sports car racing. It's helped teams and drivers, that matter sponsors too, onto that pyramid. Number of talents that have shown their way up into the European Le Mans Series and beyond in LMP2 and beyond. Like Sir Thomas Laurent made his way up into LMP1 from the start in LMP3.
A last-minute change of tyre set, quite possibly, for 1AM Villorba Corsa on the pit lane. And incidentally, tyre-wise, all of these cars running on Michelins these days.
And AM1 Villorba Corsa will be looking for rather better luck than they had, being taken out. Blameless run from them. Gary Hauser it is aboard the Racing Experience Duquesne. Blameless incident, I was about to say, for the AM1 Villorba Corsa car. Here are the two into Europol cars. And our Polish friend just having a moment to himself. The calm before the V8-powered storm.
Mateusz Kapcic, I think is the correct pronunciation. I was scholared on that by our good friend Kara from the team.
Needing more polish for Polish.
Yeah, indeed so. But into Europol competition is that lineup there. These days, each car running with 3 drivers. The time was in the past where it was just 2 with Martin Hipper.
Under 1 minute to start LMP3 qualifying session. We are under 1 minute to start the LMP3 qualifying session.
I can barely believe I'm going to say.
Drivers to respect track limits.
Thanks, Eduardo. There's the 13 again. Barely believe I'm going to say these words, but there's the number 2 car, the reigning champions, defending champions. And they need to turn around in fortunes because they've not had the best of runs so far in the European Le Mans Series this year.
No, and that's unusual, but they do have the ability to turn things around, certainly, and reflect on the mistakes they've made, some of which have not been of their own doing, and just focus on what you can change, which is from this point to the end of the season. And there's still plenty of points left on the table for all the teams.
To start the session.
So the countdown
8,
has begun.
7,
Very nearly
6,
is completed for
5,
Eduardo Freitas.
4,
And we'll be underway again here at Ricard.
1. Qualifying for LMP3 has started.
There you go, green light confirms that at the end of the pit lane, and what, 8 or 9 cars have already made it into the queue, but again 1 or 2 others choosing not to be as part of this lineup in the initial stages, just to allow the session to settle down for the first couple of minutes, and then they can start to attack.
Out they come. Let the games begin.
The championship led by Matt Bell, Nicholas Cruton and Nicola Molini, having taken 2 wins.
Yep.
They haven't yet got a pole position though.
No.
So that's the one thing missing from their CV.
There goes the number 3 from United Autosports. Is that going to be Duncan Tappy aboard that car? I suspect it might well be. Aboard here, the 12, and the Duquesnes in the field. The previously monikered Norma project, with the upgrades that came for last season, taken on by Duquesne Engineering, the whole project, lock, stock, and indeed the barrel. That's how long Mistral Straight is.
But also a chance to really take in that fantastic noise of the 5.6 litre Nissan V8, which sits right behind the driver position. And it's just the ultimate. You don't need a stereo, you just need to crank that up and listen to it working so hard down the Mistral Straight, feathering the throttle through turn 10.
Version of that engine, by the way, also the motive power in Nissan's days in V8 supercars.
Okay.
A much developed version of that engine, I should say.
Yeah, but
VK.
Intrinsically the same block. Yeah, interesting point that. So some of the teams obviously have experience of this place in the past, particularly they were signed up to last year's campaign, and in 2020 the opening race win was taken by United Autosports when Wayne Boyd, Tom Gamble and Rob Weldon were part of the same lineup, and in the second visit to Ricard it was a one and only win for Real Team Racing, who have subsequently moved up to the European Le Mans Series. But Esteban Garcia and David Drew, they haven't moved up to the ELMS,
WC.
even further than that.
They've gone to the heady heights of the World Endurance Championship in LMP2.
Yeah.
But again, proof positive that this pyramid that's been established with mixed class racing under the rules of the Automobile Club de l'Ouest is producing, bearing fruits. Here's the number 4 car. Dominant pace we've seen so far this season in this number 4 car. This is from DKR Engineering, whose championship wins thus far have come in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. In fact, no team has beaten them to this point in the Michelin Le Mans Cup in LMP3. But Laurence Her it is, and they're looking for a supporting cast to support his pace. Young German, he's been very rapid indeed.
One car I noticed well over to the right-hand side down the Mistral, I think just trying to stay off the immediate racing line in an attempt to maybe heat the tyres up. There was a bit of zigzagging being done as well. I don't think that was a moment of concern for the car in question. I was struggling to identify it from the length of shot, actually, peering all the way down the Mistral.
Might have been the Virage.
Yeah, okay.
They looked a little orange to me.
Yeah, therefore potentially Garrett Grist. So if not Garrett Grist, then maybe Fabien Leverne. But you don't need to take to the racing line on an outlet. We will see those cars, though, that are just coming out of Virage Dupont now, take to the much more conventional lines. Laurence Her for DKR Engineering in their number 4 car crosses the line. This will be the first lap in anger then.
There's a 1:49.035 from Laurence Her. Garrett Grist, it was, I think, in that train. 1:49.589, 1:49.674 from David Drew. So those three under 150 immediately, and looks to me like more to come here, Johnny.
Yeah.
So Duquesne from Ligier, DKR from Virage from Graf, Laurence Her from Garrett Grist, and David Drew. Someone running way wide there. That's the Euro International car, but not quite as wide as one of the Nielsen cars.
No, with the gold nose, the number 6 car running wide. That was Max Cobalt.
Yep.
In the second of the 2 Nielsen racing cars. Colin Noble put out for qualifying in car number 7. And he goes 4th, as I mentioned his name.
Just a few thousandths over the 150 mark. Here comes the number 4 car.
So So Laurence Hoare fastest, Garrett Grist second quickest for Team Virage in the 20. David Drew in number 8 for Graf was third fastest, and Colin Noble fourth, ahead of Duncan Tappy and Matthias Kaiser for the 3 United Autosport crew and the 9 Graf squad. 1:49.035 is the best time so far, and Laurence Hoare on the very next lap is finding time not only through the first sector but also the second as well. He's about 0.3 of a second up on his initially very good lap of a 1:49.
Yeah, Hugo de Vilde goes second. He's almost half a second down on the previous lap from Laurence Hoare. Wayne Boyd goes third. He's a further 10th back. But what can Laurence Hoare do here? He's about to come around to complete the lap. Looks to me, Johnny, as if he's going to get a significant improvement here. It was 1:49.035 last time around. This time, it's 0.05 of a second over it. That's consistency.
Yes, just a bit to be able to lap within, you know, when these lap times are timed to 3 decimal places, when the only digit changing is the last one, that shows you how close it is. 3/4 of a second then back to Garrett Grist in second. Third position Hugo de Vilde, who drops from second to third, as Graham mentioned, and David Drew's only 31,000ths of a second away from the third place car.
Garrett Grist closes the gap. It's 1/4 of a second now, the gap, as the Team Virage man who's led session so far this weekend. In free practice, he goes second in the running here in qualifying with just 3.5 minutes remaining. Who's got what left here? Hugo de Vilde pushing on.
He was, and he was creating a bit of dust or quite possibly smoke. The car was grounding out as it came through senior corner with that wooden barge board, maybe making contact with the curbing beneath the car. Also, great times being offered from Duncan Tappy in the United Autosports car, number 3. And Colin Noble still lodged there between the 2 United Autosports cars in 6th position.
Malte Jakobsen becomes the 8th man to make it under 150. It's 1:49.729. It's 0.7 of a second between the top 8. Hugo de Vilde goes second with a 1:49.251, just 200ths quicker, and is leapfrogged by Wayne Boyd, who finds another 10th, but still 1/10 of a second from the provisional pole-setting lap of Laurence Hoare to the defending champion Wayne Boyd. Then Hugo de Vilde, the Belgian driver, joins the 13 crew. This is the number 13 crew that's finished second in the overall championship order 3 times in the European Le Mans Series, desperate for that title.
2 new times at the top, make it 3, and 2 new names as well. Laurence Hoare, who was already fastest, has gone even quicker, a 1:48.543. Briefly, David Drew slotted into second in the Graf number 8 car, but now even quicker is the orange and yellow stripes of Team Virage and Garrett Grist, who's now found a way between Laurence Hoare and David Drew. So Hoare, 1:48.5, Grist, 1:49 flat, Drew, 1:49.1.
As a mark of the dominance at the moment in this session from Laurence Hoare, he's got half a second on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th place cars. Those 2nd, 3rd and 4th place cars separated by 0.5 of a second.
Wayne Boyd in 4th position. Hugo de Vilde, who has flirted with the top 3 in the early stages, finds himself down in 5th place in the better of the 2 into Europole competition cars. Nielsen Racing just losing a spot there as Duncan Tappy finds some time in the number 3 car. So Tappy, who got pole position either last time or at the start of the year, he's got 1 to his name certainly, up to 6th place with a 1:49.5.
And Hoare is rubbing this in. He's quicker again in the first 2 sectors on this lap, looking to make even further inroads. Half a second, as I say, at the moment to the good from Grist, Drew and Boyd, but quicker again in the first 2 sectors. Wayne Boyd goes second quickest, closes the gap, but still not under 1:49, whereas Laurence Hoare, I think, is going to go under 1:48.5 here.
To answer my own question, it was Tappy who went fastest in Barcelona. Laurence Hoare was quickest in Austria. Can he do the same again in this session? He hangs on to it. He goes even faster. A 1:48.440 now for Laurence Hoare.
But as a response from David Drew, he closes the gap to just 0.4 of a second, and there's another lap to try to close the gap. Is David Drew going to do this in the last knockings of the session? It was that improvement, quite rightly say, a further 10th shaved there by Laurence Hoare, but it was a bigger improvement from David Drew. He's got 0.4 of a second to find. He's second from Wayne Boyd and Garrett Grist.
0.4 of a second. And then 0.183 of a second between Drew and Boyd for second and third places. Any other names that we should expect to be up there? Maybe Fabien Laverne for MV2S Racing. He's down in 12th place. Joey Alders, as the only gold-graded driver in the entry, is down in 11th, as there was another squirrely moment, this time for...
It's
the 6 or the 7?
It's the 7.
It's the 7 of Colin Noble, who's done big damage to the nose of that car, having clobbered one of the floppies that sits on the curb on the exit of Senior Corner.
I think he clobbered a lot, and he's taken a chunk out of the front bodywork of the Ligier. So that will be game over for Colin. He will do no better than his current 8th position. In fact, he's pitted and immediately loses position to Malte Jakobsen, who shows up in 7th place. It's still the 149s, though. Looking what else we can produce it. Hugo de Wilde up from to 4th from 5th. So leapfrogs Garrett Grist. It's her from Drew, Boyd, de Wilde, Grist, Tappy, Jakobsen, Bell, Noble and Kaiser are the top 10.
Checkered flag is out, and I wonder whether Wayne Boyd actually received it on the way through there. We'll try and get confirmation on that in a second. Still pushing on a little bit, but I think there's an element. The two cars ease off, hasn't it? Yeah. So there you go. End of session for the 2. Also into the pits, David Drew, having set a time good enough for second at this stage. And a moment or two ago, Maciej Kapcic had a spin, did he? No, it was just a 4-wheel drift coming out of turn 14, Virage Dupont.
Right at the end, Garrett Grist improves to second.
Oh, yes.
A 148.826 takes half a tenth off of David Drew's best effort to make the front row in the Team Virage car. Canadian will be pleased with that, if not slightly disappointed to be second rather than pole position. But another great session here. He's looking on form. Looking for any other changes as the final runners cross the line.
But it's a tremendous effort from Laurens Hoer, who was able to be clear of the field last time out in Austria by 0.225 of a second. He's managed to go even better this time by nearly 0.4 of a second. Laurens Hoer, who we knew was a talent anyway, a former champion in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Joined by Leo Weiss once again in the entry this year, but he's still only 23, is Laurens Hoer from Gerlingen in Germany, and a champion, a double champion in fact, in Michelin Le Mans Cup, both for DKR Engineering.
Better news still though, Johnny Palmer, because not only was that pretty spectacular qualifying effort in the LMP3s, we've got another 16 LMPs to come, and this time it's the LMP2s.
Yes, we have, I know, so don't go anywhere yet, folks, because quite possibly the closest and certainly highest speed session is about to come next, and trying to find you one or two clues as to who may go well. Well, again, you have to look back to the results from qualifying from 2020. There were 2 to look at, and the number 22 United Autosports duo of those days of Phil Hansen and Philippe Albuquerque were fastest car in the opening round, and the next time out it was Phil Hansen and Philippe Albuquerque, because I think there was only one race last year where we didn't see the 22 car as the fastest machine. It was a clean sweep from United in 2020. Well, let's see what happens in 2021 in a moment or two, but the DKR Engineering crew get back-to-back pole positions both in Austria and here in France, and by 0.386 of a second from Garrett Grist and Team Virage. David Drew in the number 8 car for Graf, third, ahead of Wayne Boyd and Hugo de Wilde for United and Inter-Europol competition respectively. Matthias Kaiser gets 2 Graf cars in the top 6. He finished ahead of Duncan Tappy, also for United, Matt Bell for Cool Racing, Malte Jakobsen for RLRM Sport, and Colin Noble in the damaged Nielsen Racing car by the flag.
And as a mark of the kind of close racing we're going to get in the race tomorrow, Johnny, spotted, I think, more than half the field with under a tenth of a second between themselves in the order in qualifying, and several of them in the thousands. Yeah. Amazing stuff, really close stuff with these LMP3 cars, but again, a great display there from Laurens Hoer.
No, and he continues.
I'm down here in the DKR Engineering Garage. That's at car number 4. The driver, Jean-Philippe Desraux. What a fantastic performance from your teammate Laurens Hoer. Second pole of this season. Last one, of course, was in Red Bull Ring. So just tell us about that.
En fait, c'était la première Red Bull Ring et j'ai trouvé l'équipe top. Comme d'habitude, j'ai déjà roulé avec eux, avec la Corvette. Et puis au Paul Ricard, je connais un peu mieux le circuit que Red Bull. J'ai commencé aussi avec la P3. Donc là, ça va déjà beaucoup mieux. Et puis Lorenz fait un super boulot, il connaît très bien l'auto aussi. Donc on a un peu pu progresser. J'ai pu mettre un peu mon aide à l'équipe pour améliorer un peu ce que j'ai vu. Et là, ça a marché encore ce week-end. Donc je suis content, l'auto est top, l'équipe est top, Lorenz est top. Donc maintenant, on va essayer de faire une belle course et de ne pas s'accrocher.
Merci beaucoup. So I'm just going to quickly translate that for you. Basically, Jean-Philippe said that he's obviously delighted to be part of the team. He took part in the Red Bull Ring, but Paul Ricard is a track that you know very well, and you'll be bringing your expertise to the team over the course of this weekend. It's a team that he did know because you drove with a Corvette with them as well, and you are extremely obviously impressed with Laurence Her, and you can't wait for the race to start tomorrow.
Cracking job, Hayley. I thought that was going to fall to me to translate, and
we were there.
Yeah, my number of years travelling to France to go to the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and of course to Paul Ricard as well. And I still basically only know bonjour.
I can order a decent coffee.
You can, and it's always useful to have you alongside me in that respect.
Jean-Philippe Desraux, by the way, 52 years old, added to the crew last time out as we see the P2 cars being prepared. A multiple Andros Trophy ice racing champion, 4 times he's won that overall. Has raced at Le Mans, by the way, in the Équipe de France FFSA Viper back in 2001 alongside David Terrien and Jonathan Cochet. But great to see him here as the LMP2 cars are rolled out onto the pit apron for the final 10 minutes of qualifying for the European Le Mans Series, the 4 hours of Le Castellet here tomorrow. Here's a great car to see again. Second time we've seen this one, the number 84 car, Johnny?
Yes, missed this in Austria, but this is the innovative car, which is, again, an Orica. So the machinery is no different from the others that we will see in LMP2, but the motivation of the team association SRT 41 is to be innovative in that 2 of its drivers, I think it's 2 of the 3 that are differently abled.
Yep.
That means that because of their injuries from earlier on in life, it means that they have to control the car via hand controls. And obviously when you're switching from a fully able to a differently able driver, that is tricky in itself as well. We don't expect the pace necessarily to be there for the 84 car. Their purpose to be at this event is to get to the end of it so that they can then be part of the 24 Hours of Le Mans in August, and again want to really attack that car, race I should say, later on in the year with that car with real ferocity and looking for a result at Circuit de la Sarthe later in the year.
Yeah, 17 Edex Sport car. This is the car fielded in conjunction with Era Motorsport for the United States, Dwight Merriman and Carl Tilley. If you want a view of that car during the coverage tomorrow, have a second screen up because they've got, I believe, live stream in-car again for the car, the 17 car. Sergio Campana is aboard the 35 BHK Motorsport car. Radar dome on top of the mountain alongside.
Yeah, whichever way you drive to Circuit Paul Ricard, it's generally uphill, but then you realise that with the landscape nearby, you are nowhere near the top of this mountainous area. And the circuit deliberately built on the top of a plateau, which does offer fantastic views, not only to the landscape below, but also above as well. And you need a cracking day, as we've got today, to really enjoy that.
Yeah, the Mistral, of course, named after the famous wind.
Yeah,
and it can get very windy.
Well, the flags on the top of the pit buildings are fluttering like crazy. I'd noticed that earlier on as well. And that awkward crosswind as you head down the Mistral Straight.
This is the ultimate car, the number 29 car, and the bronze driver in this car, by the way, Francois Ariel, will be joining the innovative SRT 41 squad for the Le Mans 24 Hours. And story there with Takuma Aoki and Nigel Bailey, both, by the way, injured in motorcycle accidents, and Aoki-san, ex-MotoGP driver and by the way, Asian Le Mans Series Cup class winner, champion. So already an ACO Rules champion. And great to see that he'll be making his debut at the Le Mans 24 Hours. Tristan Gomondi aboard the Duquesne
We're under
team
30
car.
seconds to go, under 30 seconds to open pit lane.
Yeah, Duquesne revising their livery over the winter period. I remember when that car was just all black, but looks very smart now with the lime green detailing front to rear on the number 30 car. They came very close to a podium finish, I remember, a few years ago at Austria.
7, 6,
and always
5,
there or thereabouts
4,
when we get to the races.
3, 2, 1. LMP2 qualifying session has started.
Once again, the G-Drive cars being held.
They
to
are.
live a gap for the two Harris 01 Gibsons.
Yeah, there's a pattern developing there, isn't there? That is a deliberate ploy by APR to hold all three of their cars back. The 24, which is principally white, the 25 and the 26 that don't actually have APR as part of their entry because they are entered as the G-Drive Racing Aurus 01s for the Russian limousine manufacturer, but beneath the skin, they are both still Oricas.
34 car, pole position last time out, in the hands of Logan Sargent, but Harry Tinknell back with the team. He missed Red Bull Ring. He was on duty with the Mazda factory team in the United States.
There was at least a pole position that weekend for Harry, wasn't there?
There was a pole position for Harry as well.
I can't remember how the result went, but maybe not quite as good as the Saturday quali.
It's not as good as the LMS, that's fine.
Well, no, true.
Yeah.
I mean, what championship is that again? I don't even know.
Racing Team Turkey looking on. No pressure, Harry. Super Sub beat you put it on pole last time.
The one thing I will say about the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is that there seems to be more and more drivers being coaxed from the States to take part in the ELMS, and you've got that rotating driver effort at Dragon Speed that we have had.
Yeah, well, it's Gustavo Menezes back in this time.
But Ricky Taylor did the opening round, didn't he?
He didn't get to drive, but Ricky just named, by the way, this week as the nominated reserve driver for Orica Technologies at Le Mans, in case there's any issues at test day or in qualifying. And in these days of COVID testing, that's a sensible move to make from Orica. And Ricky, I'm sure there would be no complaints about having him to substitute for a gold or platinum driver. The Opportunität it is, Flying Dutchman.
And with the 32 car sitting on pole position at the back end of last year at Portimao, I'm trying to remember now whether they went on to win that event. No, they didn't, but they had a good qualifying session last year at times, the 32 car. They did win a race last year as well. That was the opener here, wasn't it? When it all went a bit wrong for the 22 cars. The 32 were victorious at the start of 2020. Clearly go very strongly around here. Joop van Houten will be sharing the car with Manuel Maldonado and Nicolas Jamin. So a 30.6 through the first part of the lap for car 32. Gabriel Aubry in the number 17 car, which is the LMP2 Pro-Am entry. Now remember, if in this session you finish as the top Pro-Am car, there's no extra point for that, but there are the regular points in tomorrow's race. So therefore, if you finish as the top Pro-Am car, regardless of where you are in the overall LMP2 order, that's an additional 25 points.
Yeah, indeed.
So two separate championships taking place at once.
Way off.
That's Joop, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Yeah. Pushing way too hard into senior corner. Was that tyres not quite up to temperature or just slightly the wrong line heading in?
But certainly there. Oh, he went off very
quickly. He catch the inside curb, maybe.
Oh,
did incredibly well to hang on to that. Now, the blue stripes represent a higher type of friction, a different makeup of asphalt, which should help you get a moment like that back again. But I have seen certainly speeds of that sort of height and less end up in a big crash.
Indeed, he did well to gather that back up, actually.
Yeah.
You mentioned Gabriel Aubry, by the way. He's a replacement here for Andy L, who's racing across in North America this weekend. First flying lap comes through, and that is Phil Hansen goes to the top.
And also a good time for Charlie Eastwood to go through as the quickest Pro-Am car so far in the TF Sport Prepared Racing Team Turkey Orica 07. So 142.856 is Phil Hansen's effort. He was the pole sitter on two separate occasions last year, although they were both Philippe Albuquerque times. Philippe not part of this squad any longer because Phil Hansen was champion last year, he's moved up to a gold. That provides a vacancy for Tom Gamble, who becomes the new silver, and Jonathan Aberdeen is also a gold, the man from South Africa, from Cape Town. Gabriel Aubry then into the number 17 car for EDEX Sport. Was briefly the fastest in Pro-Am, but has been put down the order a little bit. Still plenty of time left for him to improve. Aubry waiting on the throttle, and there's a red flag out in the session with 5 minutes and 15 seconds left on the clock because of the 37 car. Maybe? Ooh, I don't know. But well, that would be a cruel twist of fate, because it was a 37 Cool Racing car that brought the red flag out earlier on in Michelin Le Mans Cup.
So that car did look as it had been stationary for a short while, didn't it?
It did.
Trying to bring you.
But Lapierre's moving again.
Is there damage to the right-hand side of that car? No, there's not. It's just an optical illusion as he passed the wall.
Strange.
Was he just stranded?
Well, it may well have been a stranded car. They brought the red flag out, and then, as so often happens, as soon as the caution or the stoppage is put out, the car gets going again. But race control do tend to count from 10.
And reported to the stewards for causing a red flag, the number 37 car.
Interesting. Well, it's back with the team now, and is on to the dolly jacks as well. So towards the end of the lap, after Bose, it turned left and onto one of the access roads.
But did it then rejoin?
Yeah, it looks
stop
like it
at the
did.
rejoining point. That might be what they're talking about then. There was an opportunity to stop and he didn't.
Interesting. Well, we haven't quite got the full picture of the issue here, but it does appear that the 37 car of Nicolas Lapierre has, or is the cause for the red flag, and a number of cars still motoring round. Gabriel Aubry briefly shown as stopped on the circuit as well, but I think that's just down to the fact that the cars are now setting much slower times through the sectors, and therefore the timing system's picking them up as stock cars when actually they are still in motion.
Clock has stopped, but it leaves Phil Hansen on top with a 1:42.856. Just before the red flag, Will Stevens in the Palace Racing 65 car with a 1:43.357 sits second in the order. Then Charlie Eastwood in the Racing Team Turkey car. Another good qualifying session so far for the debuting 34 car this season. A great effort this early on from Sergio Campana in the BHK car. He is fourth.
Very impressive indeed. Third placed in the LMP2 proper cars, therefore. Yes, but for BHK Motorsport, who have been part of the ELMS entry for at least the last 3, maybe 4 seasons. British flagged, but have a lot of Italian mechanics working for them as well. Sergio Campana hails from that part of... Oh, having said that, where is Campana from? Is he Brazilian?
I think he's Italian.
Okay.
I think.
I just second-guessed myself there, and we'll need to check that. But BHK Motorsport is Italian. Yes, you're right.
But a number of British talent, by the way, in the garage as well as on the flag, with Mark Owen from 360 Racing a part of the team this season, amongst others. So there's the 37 car, and there might be some consequences there.
Yeah, it's not the day to be driving a 37 numbered Cool Racing car, because it was exactly the same numbered car from the Swiss team that brought out the red flag in today's earlier Michelin Le Mans Cup session. That was with 4 minutes to go. On this occasion, there's a little over half of the time still to elapse. So 37 went wide a little at senior, but recovered that moment.
Then what happened? Wide again.
At Bose.
And then just lost power.
It just cut out, didn't it? Coming out of the double
cut through.
Right.
I think the issue here is he drifted back onto the track. I think that's what he did at the end of that shot. That's why we've had the report. There was an opportunity to stop when he's out the way, and he didn't. Certainly when we saw him restart, he was certainly on the racing surface.
Yes. So, interesting. As we say, we don't quite get, cannot fully describe exactly what happened there. So we're piecing it together to an extent. But having brought out the red flag, Cool Racing showing intent to rejoin. The car was briefly up on the dolly jacks, but is now back onto all 4 Goodyear tyres.
Well, they'll give it a shot to see whether or not they'll get a qualifying time here. Whether or not they manage to keep it is a different matter. That does show a slight sense of humour failure in race control, that message, as the cars stream out once again, this time with one of the 2 G-Drive cars at the front of the queue. So best time so far offered by Phil Hansen, a 1:42.8.
So bear in mind, an outlap's going to take you 150, 155 maybe.
Yep. Only 8 cars have set a time, by the way. Only half the field have set a time so far, with just under 5 minutes remaining right now.
And the majority of these cars are going to have 2 laps, depending on how quickly a lot of them have rejoined. Maybe 3.
Maybe 3 if they really get a hustle on in the front of this queue. But another interrupted session.
Yes.
But not to say we're not going to get excitement at the end here, because we've seen that in just about every other session. Not hanging about here, the 26 car in the hands of Nick de Vries, one of the cars that has not yet set a time. Young Dutchman, introduced into LMP2 by Racing Team Netherlands, picked up in the European Le Mans Series by G-Drive Racing.
This one is just coming nicely to the boil, I think, and those that wanted to take it relatively easy in the opening few laps have not been given that choice any longer, and that's the reason why, I mean, so many of the quick drivers have been put out into their relevant cars. Phil Hansen on qualifying duty, having moved up a grade in the winter period after such an amazing season for the Londoner last year. He was an ELMS Series champion. He was a WEC champion, and he was the champion of the 24 Hours of Le Mans in the LMP2 category. So a flawless performance, together with Philippe Albuquerque and Paul de Resta. And there's had to be a change around, clearly, in the driving lineup for car 22. But at the moment, they're in the box seat to take another pole position at this famous circuit. Will Stevens for Panis Racing, number 65, second quickest and half a second away from Hansen's effort. Charlie Eastwood, the best placed of the LMP2 Pro-Am cars for Racing Team Turkey, is in third.
De Vries 2/10 up in his first flying sector of this first flying lap for the number 26 man. And his target is mark set by Phil Hansen at 1:42.856, and up again by half a tenth in sector 2. Looks like he's heading for provisional pole. Ran a bit wide there, kicked up the dust from the curbs. That could be enough for the United man to just fend off this attack a little longer.
Out of Beausset into this final sequence of corners, 12, 13 and 14. Nick de Vries then through the gears briefly, setting the car up for Virage du Lac and straddling the curb there, but making sure he keeps at least 2 of the Goodyear Eagle tyres the right side of the white line. Car 26 will head out of the final corner to head across the line. It's a 1:42.856, which is good enough to take him to pole position. 1:42.574, beg your pardon.
Also, Paul-Luc Chatin goes second quickest to a 1:40.2769, but better than both of them. Louis Delatraz,
yes,
the WRT car from nowhere, 1:42.494. Hansen still fourth. Charlie Eastwood goes fifth with a 1:42.990. They're the 5 drivers so far under 1:43.
And we haven't spoken a great deal about WRT, but they are the championship leaders after a flawless performance. 2 wins from 2 coming here to Ricard.
Yeah, Nico Lapierre, hoping he's not going to be called to account later for that red flag. He goes third quickest, 1:42.661. So Delatraz, De Vries to Lapierre. Now Gabby Aubrey pops up in the first EDEC Sport cars, 17 ahead of 28 at the moment. Also into the 42s. Van Utrecht pops up, 1,000th of a second behind Charlie Eastwood. He's 8th at the moment, the last of the cars in the 42s. So Delatraz, De Vries, Lapierre, Aubrey, Chatin, Hansen, Eastwood and Van Utrecht top 8, and all under 1:43. All separated, by the way, by 0.6 of a second.
And Louis Delatraz set to go even better, it looks like, because he is up in the first couple of sectors on the very next lap in the Orlean sponsored Team WRT car. So 41 on course.
But I think De Vries is quicker. I think De Vries is quicker still. He comes on through a 1:42.494. That match, is that? No, sorry, 1:42.166
Yeah.
from De Vries. My timing stutters in front of me. What's Louis Delatraz got to answer?
Checkered flag is out, so they're going to get no further opportunity. Louis Delatraz does go quicker, but it's not quite good enough. 0.157 of a second is the margin from the Nick De Vries time back to Louis Delatraz. So it's G-Drive Racing looking the more likely. There are still cars to come across the line, but I think Nick's done just about enough here for G-Drive Racing.
Chatin goes third. No, he doesn't, because Nicolas Lapierre goes third. Aubry goes fourth. Hansen goes third.
Not changing. The front row starters, though. De Vries stays fastest. Louis Delatraz second quickest. Phil Hansen in third position and left that incredibly late to set the 1:42.478. Nicolas Lapierre in fourth in the number 37 car, with Gabby Aubry in fifth, and Paul-Luc Chatin, who pitted very late on, does not improve. He did on the previous lap, though, setting a 1:42.769. Looking further down the order, Joop van Uitert, who was setting the pace initially, only seventh. Charlie Eastwood in the second of the best Pro-Am cars will start from 8th position, but the celebrations can commence, although rather muted fashion right now down at G-Drive Racing after Nick De Vries backs himself another pole position.
Those top 8, by the way, still under 1:43, and 7 of those 8 improved on their final lap. So the only one not to improve with that final lap of the top 8, Gabby Aubry, will start from 5th. So it's Nick De Vries from Louis Delatraz. That gap, what, 10th and a half? Phil Hansen improved to third right at the death there from Nicolas Lapierre, Gabby Aubry, Paul-Luc Chatin, Joop van Uitert, Charlie Eastwood. Will Stevens and Tristan Gomini make up the top 10?
So, as far as the pole positions are concerned to date, that I reckon is a second pole of the year. Yes, because Nick, together with his teammates Franco Colapinto and Roman Rusinov, started the Barcelona race from pole position after a great time from Nick De Vries. And the second event, it was all about Logan Sargent, you may remember, in the Pro-Am entered Racing Team Turkey car, who took pole position in Austria.
Interesting tactic here from the G-Drive team. He's on his full course yellow limiter on the way in. Is he very low on fuel?
Yeah, well, yeah, quite possibly. And there'll need to be, there's usually the need for a bit of a sample as well that the scrutineer will need to take.
Fuel, we should make clear.
Correct.
David Leach, by the way,
sample.
the technical director at G-Drive Racing, Algarve Pro Racing, on the timing stand. And it will be him that have masterminded the tactics for this run to pole. Nick De Vries, G-Drive Racing, score 1 against the Team WRT enemy this year, and that's turning into a mighty battle.
It really is. And I still think possibly WRT start as slight favourites compared to G-Drive Racing, but that might have equalled things up now that Nick De Vries has done the business. It's a 1:42.166 from the Belgian squad who lead the championship, Team WRT. Third, Phil Hansen's time for United Autosports, ahead of, in fourth position, the Nicolas Lapierre Cool Racing car, which was the best of the Pro-Ams. Gabby Aubry's Edex Sport entered number 17, also an LMP2 Pro-Am entry, ahead of Paul-Luc Chatin, the sister Edex Sport car. United Autosports, Joop van Uitert in the 32, ahead of Charlie Eastwood, Will Stevens for Panis, and the Duquet number 30 car of Tristan Gomendy.
Tiny gaps again all the way through, and particularly the LMP classes, where there's a number of gaps in the thousands, averaging out, I think, at just over a tenth of a second between each of the cars, and that's 16. It's the 22 car, topped the session before that red flag, Johnny, but finishes third in the order, and will start from the second row tomorrow.
But only missed out on pole position by 0.3 of a second, and the gaps first to second, second to third, nearly identical. 1.5 tenths between each of the top 3 cars. What about the G-Drive car, though? That was dominant for the Aura 01 crew. Let's get reaction from Hayley.
That's right, it's a bit of a different kind of setting here. I'm with Roman Rusinov, driver of car number 26 for G-Drive Racing. What a fantastic performance by your teammate Nick, of course, who just got pole here at Le Castellet. I mean, what do you think is going to be key to doing well in the race tomorrow here?
Yeah, I think it's all about traffic management, about tire degradation. Yeah, I think we have quite a good car, so let's focus on the race tomorrow. Yeah, I think we have all the factors to win it, just need a bit of luck and then it can happen.
Is it a circuit that you like here?
Yeah, we like this track, you know, it's always nice to be here in Paul Ricard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Roman Rusinov actually standing out on the pit wall with Haley Edmonds then to offer us reaction, and quietly confident from the Russian, I think.
And indeed, and here's a tiny bit of motorsport trivia for you. The grass sitting behind him between the pit stand and the pit lane comes from Biggin Hill.
Is that right?
That's put there in the days when Bernie Eccleston owned this place, and also owns a lot of the facility, of course, at Biggin Hill Airfield.
I'm not sure whether such a question will ever pop up in a pub quiz that I'm at, but you'll be the first person I call if it does. Thank you, Graham, for your company for the last 60 minutes. We look forward to the race tomorrow. Our build-up will start from 10:40 local time for an 11 o'clock start for round 3 of the European Le Mans Series. From Graham Goodwin and Johnny Palmer, we'll see you tomorrow.